Have you ever felt that way? That moment when a casual remark, a small action, or even just a fleeting glance from someone makes your heart race, your mind spiral, and you feel like you've completely lost control over your own emotions? Some days it seems like even the tiniest thing, a negative comment, a careless word, or simply someone's silence can make you feel as if the whole world is against you. Modern life, with its relentless pace, invisible pressures, and constant flow of information, makes it all too easy to get caught in an emotional whirlwind. Even a small wave of irritation can send your mind into chaos. We live surrounded by endless stimuli: social media, work, relationships, each one constantly testing the peace within us. A criticism, a misunderstanding, or a minor failure can ignite anger, hurt, and resentment. And we wonder, is it possible to navigate life's storms while staying calm and composed? Can there be a state of inner peace where no one intentionally or not can disturb our serenity? The answer is yes. And those who have discovered it are not just lucky, they are the ones who have deeply mastered the art of self-control. Thousands of years ago, Greek and Roman philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca faced trials far harsher than ours today. War, loss, betrayal, power struggles, and profound loneliness. Yet, amidst all the chaos, they found peace not by escaping the world, but by understanding themselves. Their teachings form what we now call Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that remains strikingly relevant, a guiding light for those seeking calm amid the turbulence of life. Stoicism does not teach us to run from our emotions. It teaches us to see them clearly, so we are no longer ruled by them. It shows us how to master the mind rather than letting the outside world manipulate us. No one can disturb your inner peace unless you allow it. In today's video, we'll explore 7 profound Stoic practices, methods that not only help you master your emotions, but also regain control over your life, so you no longer become a victim of anger, sadness, or disappointment. Instead, you will become the master of yourself, standing firm amid life's storms and discovering true freedom, something no one can ever take from you. Part 1. The Soul of Stoicism, the first step to self-mastery. What you're about to hear isn't just dry philosophy or abstract theories from a textbook. It's the essence of a way of life, distilled over thousands of years by people who faced immense loss, war, betrayal, and profound loneliness, but still maintained inner calm amidst all of it. This isn't just knowledge, it's lived experience, a map for navigating moments when your mind is unsettled and emotions are overwhelming. If you listen carefully and actually practice even one of these principles, it can create an immediate shift in how you perceive life and in how you respond to it. So, set everything aside for now, open your heart, and focus on each small idea, because in just a single moment of realization, you could change the rest of your life. Now, let's begin this journey together. Lesson 1. Be ready to receive. Let life flow through you. The first principle and the foundation of all Stoic philosophy is the art of acceptance. It may sound simple, but it is one of life's greatest challenges. We often assume that acceptance means resignation or giving up. For Stoics, however, acceptance is not surrender. It is a deliberate, mindful acknowledgement of reality without judgment. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Accept what comes from fate, and love the people fate places beside you, but do so with all your heart." This isn't sentimental advice. It is a declaration of inner freedom. When we stop resisting what is happening, when we stop complaining about the unchangeable, we start liberating ourselves from the chains of anger and frustration. Imagine a simple situation. You're washing dishes after a long day. Cold water, greasy hands, stacks of plates. A sense of irritation rises within you. Why is everyone else relaxing while I do everything? In that moment, you are standing at a crossroads. One path leads to resistance and being consumed by your emotions. The other leads to acceptance and finding peace in each small movement. If you shift your perspective just a little and tell yourself, this is just part of life. I'm not only cleaning dishes but also clearing my mind. Suddenly, the most ordinary tasks take on meaning. What once felt like a mundane chore transforms into a form of active meditation, a practice in patience, calm, and self-awareness. That is the power of acceptance. It doesn't make the world lighter, but it makes your mind steadier. You don't need the world to change in order to find peace. You only need to learn not to let it disturb your inner calm. Stoicism doesn't teach us to avoid pain. It teaches us to face it with wisdom and serenity. Because sometimes it's precisely in the moments when we cannot control our circumstances that we learn how to control ourselves. Lesson 2. Voluntary acceptance. Letting the burden dissolve. Imagine this. You're doing a repetitive, boring task, maybe cleaning, washing dishes, or completing a tedious work assignment. If you approach it feeling forced, irritated, or resentful, every minute can feel like an eternity. Each action becomes an internal battle between want and must, between resistance and acceptance. But try changing just one thing: your attitude. If you approach the task willingly, with gratitude for having the opportunity to act, to live, to experience, you'll witness something remarkable. The burden begins to dissolve, not because the work becomes easier, but because you become lighter. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "Don't try to make the world operate according to your will. Learn instead to want things to happen as they do, and you will find peace." This is the essence of voluntary acceptance, not fighting the flow of life, but flowing with it. Sometimes life doesn't need you to win, it only needs you to let go. Finding peace in the smallest moments. In practice, this mindset isn't some distant, abstract idea. It can be applied in every moment, both when life is pleasant and when it challenges us. For example, imagine you're stuck in a massive traffic jam, surrounded by honking cars and blazing Sunday. Anger rises, you pound the steering wheel, sigh, and feel as though the entire world is against you. But the truth is that anger changes nothing. It only makes you more exhausted. Now, if you shift your perspective and see the situation as a rare pause in your day, you can turn on a favorite podcast, listen to some soothing music, or simply take a few deep breaths and reflect on your day. The situation is the same, but your mind is different, and the world feels different too. Voluntary acceptance doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means choosing a conscious response. When we stop letting external circumstances dictate our emotions, we reclaim our inner freedom, a freedom that most people unknowingly lose in modern life. Living with purpose, making every action meaningful. A key aspect of voluntary acceptance is knowing why you live and what you live for. Without clear purpose, even the simplest actions can feel burdensome because their meaning is invisible. But when you have a larger goal, a lighthouse guiding your life, even the smallest tasks take on value. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? Where do I truly want my life to go? What kind of person do I want to become? These questions help reveal that sometimes our exhaustion doesn't come from the work itself, it comes from forgetting the meaning behind it. If you want, I can continue translating the next lessons in the same natural, inspiring style, so it reads smoothly for American audiences while keeping all the Stoic principles intact. Do you want me to continue? Those who live with a grand vision don't act merely to gain temporary rewards like money or fame. They act with the understanding that every experience, whether good or bad, is a building block shaping who they are. Voluntary action, not coercion, but liberation. But when you choose to do it willingly, with the awareness that it serves your journey, negative emotions gradually dissolve. Instead of feeling bound, you begin to feel free because you are the one choosing this way of life. And this is one of the greatest secrets to inner peace. No one can make you suffer if you don't resist what is happening. When you flow with life, accepting everything as part of the journey, you don't just find calm, you touch true freedom. Lesson 3. When action comes from willingness, every burden becomes joy. Consider two scenarios. In the first, you are forced to do something: completing a project, tidying the house, or helping someone when your heart isn't in it. In this case, every passing second feels stretched, and you feel tired, heavy, and perhaps even resentful. Now imagine the second scenario. You voluntarily help a friend in need not for material gain, but simply because you want to share and bring goodness into their life. Suddenly, every effort feels meaningful. Even if the task is difficult, time-consuming, or unrecognized, you feel a deep, quiet joy within yourself. The difference between these two situations isn't in what you do, it's in how you perceive what you're doing. When you choose to act, you feel in control. When you feel forced, you lose your inner freedom. That mindset, I choose to do this, rather than I have to do this, marks the boundary between peace and suffering. Mastering your reactions, instead of letting emotions master you. Stoic philosophy teaches that in any situation, we always have two options. Let emotions control us, reacting in anger. Pause, reflect, and choose a response that preserves inner peace. When someone insults, criticizes, or says something that hurts, you can let them control your emotions, turning you into a puppet of anger. Or you can realize, this person is acting according to their own nature, driven by their emotions. But I have the right to choose not to let it disturb me. The moment you choose not to react is the moment you conquer yourself. And that is the most valuable victory of all. Acceptance. Not surrender, but wisdom. Many misunderstand acceptance as resignation or giving up. In reality, acceptance is a form of wisdom, understanding what is within your control and what is not. You cannot control what others say. You cannot control every situation in life, but you can always control how you respond. Acceptance is not weakness, it is the strength of someone who truly understands life and themselves. Epictetus once taught, "It is not what happens to us that causes suffering, but how we perceive it." If you are criticized at work, instead of withdrawing or reacting harshly, see it as a hidden lesson. Perhaps there is truth in the criticism, and it allows you to reflect on yourself. And if there isn't, at least you learn self-restraint and maintain your dignity. Peace comes from within, not from the outside world. Remember, events themselves do not determine your mood. Your reactions shape your life. Everything that happens externally is just material for cultivating inner calm. As you practice acceptance, willingness, and voluntary action, you'll notice your mind becoming lighter, pressure fading, and focus sharpening. You no longer waste energy on things beyond your control, but direct it toward what you can truly influence. The journey. Not an overnight miracle training. The mind to live intentionally, willingly, and with acceptance is not something that can be achieved overnight. It is a journey, and that journey begins with the smallest steps, learning to forgive your own mistakes, learning to pause before reacting, learning to choose your attitude instead of being swept away by emotions. Every day, even a small step forward brings you closer to true peace. Peace doesn't come from controlling the world, it comes from controlling your own mind. Lesson 4. Seeing life with compassion instead of judgment. There is a simple truth that many overlook. Life is never without challenges. Every day brings things that can irritate us, a harsh word, a careless act, or something that doesn't go our way. But what often hurts us the most isn't the circumstance itself, it's how we think about it. If we view every challenge as a punishment from fate, we live in bitterness and resistance. But if we see them as lessons meant to strengthen us, even small inconveniences become opportunities for growth. When you learn to approach life with calmness and kindness, you begin to notice. Troubles are no longer as frightening as before. Things that once made you angry now pass like a gentle breeze. And instead of easily losing your temper, you cultivate a quiet yet resilient inner strength that helps you face life with patience and compassion. Don't judge, observe. One of the biggest sources of insecurity, stress, and anger is the habit of judging others. We do it almost instinctively, every day, every hour. When someone behaves differently from what we expect, our mind immediately labels them. This person is rude, she's selfish, he's untrustworthy. Ironically, these judgments don't just harm others, they harm us even more. Every time we label someone, we trap ourselves in negative thinking, creating an invisible emotional burden. The Stoics called this the invisible chain of the mind, the bond that keeps us tied to anger, frustration, and pride. Only when we release the habit of judgment does the mind become truly free. Everyone has their reasons. Consider a familiar situation. You're driving and someone suddenly cuts you off. The natural reaction for many is frustration, even harsh words. But have you ever paused for a moment to consider maybe they're a new driver, rushing a loved one to the hospital, or simply having a worse day than you? The situation itself hasn't changed, but the way you interpret it determines your emotional response. Epictetus said, "It is not events that disturb us, but our view of them." The outside world cannot make us angry, only our thoughts about it can. Judgment, the root of all anger. Imagine a colleague who is often late. If you assume they're lazy or irresponsible, each late arrival only fuels your irritation. But if you allow yourself a broader perspective, perhaps they are caring for a sick relative or quietly facing their own challenges, your heart feels much lighter. The truth is, we rarely know someone else's full story. So whenever your mind begins to judge, pause for a moment and ask yourself, do I really understand what they're going through? When you learn to observe rather than judge, you not only see others more clearly, but you also gain deeper understanding of yourself, letting go of judgment, releasing the weight in your heart. Every time you judge someone, you add another stone to your heart. But when you let go of judgment, you release an unnecessary burden, allowing your heart to feel lighter and freer. The Stoics didn't try to change the world to fit their desires. They chose to change their perspective to live in harmony with it. And this is the path to true inner freedom, something no one can ever take from you. When you stop judging, you're not only forgiving others, you're forgiving yourself. Ultimately, peace doesn't come from proving who is right or wrong. It comes from learning how to live lightly amidst imperfection. Lesson 5. Let go of judgment. Liberate your soul. Letting go of judgment doesn't mean you turn a blind eye or accept all wrongdoing. It's not weakness, it's a conscious choice. The choice not to let others or circumstances pull you into negative energy. When you stop labeling someone as bad, annoying, or difficult, you're not condoning their behavior, you're protecting your own inner peace. The more we judge, the heavier our minds become. The more we insist on defining right and wrong in every situation, the easier it is to get caught in a spiral of anger, hurt, and resentment. Stoicism doesn't teach us to ignore problems. It teaches us to see them clearly with a calm and rational mind. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman philosopher king, once wrote, "You always have the right to withhold your opinion. You are never compelled to let your mind be disturbed by things beyond your control." These words are a gem in the treasury of human wisdom. They remind us that not everything requires a reaction, and not every reaction is worth sacrificing our peace of mind. No one is perfect, everyone is human. Life doesn't come with perfect people. Each person is a mixture of actions, habits, and circumstances. Even those we consider bad have moments of goodness, and even those we admire the most sometimes make mistakes. Look at yourself. There have certainly been times when you didn't act at your best, perhaps because you were tired, stressed, or simply having a bad day. Others are no different. Everyone has moments when they are not themselves. When you understand this, you begin to see others with compassion rather than judgment. You see them as humans on their own journey, just like you. The lesson of a spilled glass of water. Imagine sitting in a restaurant and the server accidentally spills water on the table. The immediate reaction might be irritation, maybe even muttering, "Seriously? How careless can you be?" But if you pause for a single breath and think, maybe they've been working all day without a break, maybe they're under pressure from their manager, or maybe they just experienced something upsetting, suddenly your anger fades. You no longer feel annoyance, you feel empathy. In that moment, when you choose understanding over judgment, you liberate yourself from the heavy emotions that were never intentionally brought to you. The power of compassion. Letting go of judgment isn't just an act of kindness, it's an act of strength. The weak allow anger to control them. The truly strong know how to pause, smile, and open their hearts to the world's imperfections. When you learn not to let external events disturb your mind, you realize the world may still be chaotic, but your mind no longer mirrors that chaos. You move through life with calm awareness, knowing what you can control and what is better left to the winds. Letting go of judgment, planting seeds of empathy. When we stop rushing to judge, we start noticing what we used to miss. A forced smile hiding sadness, a clumsy action reflecting effort, a harsh word born of hurt. In those moments, our hearts soften. We become kind not because we are noble, but because we understand more deeply. Empathy grows the instant we stop competing, win or lose, right or wrong. From there, we begin to live truly free, free from anger, resentment, and unnecessary emotional turmoil. By letting go of judgment, you don't just free others from comparison, you free yourself from the chains of negative emotions. This is the highest form of inner freedom, a freedom only you can grant yourself. Lesson 6. Refuse to let others control your emotions. Letting go of judgment doesn't mean accepting wrongdoing, nor does it mean being passive or ignoring boundaries of right and wrong. It simply means choosing not to let someone else's actions dictate your mood or energy. You can still recognize what is right and wrong, but you won't allow negative emotions to overwhelm your reasoning. Maintaining composure in the face of wrongdoing is the mark of true maturity. Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman philosopher-emperor, once said, "The best revenge is not to become like the one who harmed you." Think about that. When someone insults, betrays, or hurts you, anger urges you to retaliate. But if you respond with the same negative energy, you've unknowingly become a reflection of what you despise. True victory is not defeating another, it's preserving your calm and dignity amidst the storm. How to practice non-judgment. The first step is awareness. Every time you catch yourself judging someone, pause and ask, is this thought necessary? Does it bring me peace? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. Judgment only clouds the mind. It doesn't change the world. Next, try shifting perspective. Instead of thinking, this person is so annoying, ask yourself, what might they be going through that I don't know? Perhaps they're exhausted, stressed, or simply having a bad day. By changing your perspective, your mind feels lighter, more compassionate, and no longer gets swept into negative energy. Learning to see others with empathy. The world is as diverse as a garden full of different flowers. Not everyone is like you, and differences aren't mistakes. They're what make life rich and meaningful. If someone doesn't behave the way you want, it doesn't mean they're bad. It simply means they are on their own path. When you truly understand this, you stop expecting everyone to act exactly the way you want. You no longer feel hurt when others behave differently, because you recognize that everyone has their own starting point, experiences, and wounds. Let go of judgment. Release emotional burdens. When you constantly judge others, you unknowingly tie yourself to emotional burdens. Each judgment binds your mind to an invisible chain of anger and frustration. Letting go of judgment isn't about forgiving mistakes. It's about freeing yourself from unnecessary negative emotions. The next time someone irritates you, pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, is this anger really worth losing my peace of mind? The more you practice this, the more you feel the power of inner freedom, where your emotions are no longer controlled by the actions of others. Instead of reacting, understand and release. When you learn to approach situations with empathy and understanding, you not only become kinder to others, but also lighter and more at peace with yourself. Ask yourself whenever emotions rise, do I want to hold on to this anger, or do I want to live a free and peaceful life? That choice is always yours, and only when you consciously choose peace over judgment, understanding over reaction, do you truly live the Stoic spirit, mastering your emotions instead of being mastered by them. Lesson 7. Let go of control. Peace comes from acceptance. There's a truth most of us take a long time to realize. Much of our anger, frustration, and disappointment doesn't come from life being too harsh, but from expecting life to go exactly as we want. We want others to behave as we expect. We want work to go smoothly. We want life to follow the plan we've drawn in our minds. But the world has never worked that way. Each person has their own reasons, beliefs, and fears. People act not according to your logic, but according to their own experiences and stories. When we try to force everything to go our way, we're just resisting a flowing river. The more we struggle, the more exhausted we become. But when we let go, we can float with the current gently, yet still moving forward. The source of peace is in how we respond, not in control. The Stoics said this thousands of years ago. We cannot control the world, but we can control how we see the world. You can't command circumstances, but you can always choose your attitude toward them. Storms may arise outside at any moment, but whether your boat sinks depends on the calmness of the person at the helm. Stuck in traffic, a lesson in accepting helplessness. Imagine driving during rush hour. Traffic is jammed, horns are blaring, and minutes drag on like hours. You feel irritated, your heart races, and your head burns with frustration. You think, why does everyone drive like maniacs? Why is traffic always a nightmare? But no matter how angry you get, it won't make the cars move any faster. You can't change the way other people drive, and you certainly can't make the cars ahead disappear. The only thing you truly have control over is your attitude in that very moment. You can choose to stay angry, letting your frustration burn away your energy, or you can take a deep breath, play some calming music, and accept that some things are simply beyond your control. When you grasp this, peace begins to take root in your mind quietly, yet steadily. Letting go isn't surrender, it's wisdom. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up on effort. It means recognizing the difference between what you can influence and what you cannot. A mother may worry day and night about her child's education, but she cannot take the exams for them or make them grow up faster. What she can do is sow love, teach them how to learn independently, and trust in their journey. An employee may feel angry over an unfair decision from their boss, but they cannot change their superior's mindset or viewpoint. What they can do is improve their own skills and choose to respond wisely and calmly rather than lash out and burn themselves from within. When you stop trying to control everyone and everything, you reclaim your own power over your emotions. That is true freedom. Let go to live more lightly. The world has never run according to our wishes. Yet the miracle is that we can still live peacefully in a chaotic world. By letting go of the need to control, you free yourself from unnecessary worry, resentment, and frustration. Life doesn't need to be perfect for you to be happy. It only requires that you have enough stillness to accept things as they are. Whenever you feel yourself forcing something, pause and ask, is this really within my control? If the answer is no, take a deep breath, smile, and let life unfold in its own way. Because sometimes, peace doesn't come from changing the world. It comes from learning how to remain calm within it. Part 2. Letting go of expectations, rediscovering your true strength. Most of the pain in life doesn't come from what we lack, but from the gap between reality and our expectations. The more we expect from things beyond our reach, the more fragile we become when the world doesn't bend to our will. We often cling to the belief, if I try hard enough, if I give my all, everything will go the way I want. But in reality, the universe doesn't operate according to our emotions. It follows its own natural laws where fairness doesn't always align with the justice in our hearts. The story of a young entrepreneur and a priceless lesson. I once knew a young entrepreneur, ambitious, driven, and determined to change the world. He poured his energy and years of his youth into building a tech company. In his mind, this product would spark a revolution, a historic breakthrough that would make the industry take notice. But when he launched the product, reality didn't match his dreams. Customers were indifferent, feedback was weak, and sales fell short of expectations. The collision between ideals and reality crushed him. He began blaming consumers for not understanding the value of the product, suspected competitors of foul play, and slowly fell into a spiral of bitterness and helplessness. He felt like the world was against him, but in truth, it was his desire to control everything that was truly holding him down. Shifting perspective, a new energy flows. During one conversation, I told him something simple. Instead of blaming what's beyond your reach, focus on doing well with what you can influence. At first, he was silent, even resistant. But gradually, as he reflected, he realized this is the essence of inner freedom. He began to stop complaining, accepting customer feedback as a gift rather than criticism. He refined his product, adjusted his marketing strategy, and learned patience, slow but steady. Strangely, as he stopped trying to control the world, his creative energy surged stronger than ever. It was the act of letting go, not gripping tighter, that opened the door to true success, a success that came from within. Stoicism, the art of asking the right questions. Stoic philosophy doesn't teach us to endure or submit. It teaches us to direct our energy to where it truly belongs. Whenever you face stress, instead of panicking, pause and ask yourself, is this within my control? Will my reaction help the situation or only make it worse? These seemingly simple questions are the key to freedom of mind. Because if you can't change the circumstances, you can always change how you stand within them. When you master your response, every challenge becomes training for resilience and wisdom. Letting go isn't weakness, it's knowing your true power. Many people mistakenly think that letting go is surrender. In truth, letting go is an act of someone who deeply understands the limits of their own power. You cannot command a river to stop flowing, but you can learn to steer your boat so it drifts with the current while still heading in the right direction. You cannot control the wind, but you can adjust your sails to catch it the right way. This is the essence of Stoicism, being proactive in what you can control and remaining calm in what you cannot. Practice. Preparing. Before the storm, ancient Stoics had a fascinating exercise called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Every morning, they would spend a few minutes imagining the challenges that might arise during the day. A failed meeting, a friend breaking a promise, or a sudden rainstorm that ruins their plans. By preparing their mindset in advance, they were not shocked when life didn't go as expected and could face anything with the calm of someone who is ready. This is not pessimism, it is a way to build inner strength so that even if the world shakes, your heart remains steady like a mountain. Learning to sail on the current of life, life never stands still. The river keeps flowing, the wind keeps blowing, and change always arrives unexpectedly. But when you understand what you can control and what you should only observe, you live more lightly, more deeply, and more freely. Letting go of control doesn't make you weak. It makes you alert, wise, and more resilient than anyone desperately trying to hold everything in their hands. Part 3. Anticipating adversity and the art of embracing the world's imperfections. Before the sun even rises, the ancient Stoics had a curious habit. They would spend a few minutes imagining the worst that could happen during the day ahead. They might think about a meeting that could fail, a colleague making an unintentional mistake, or a sudden rainstorm ruining an important plan. Not to be pessimistic, but to prepare the mind so that when the storm actually comes, the heart is not swept away. Marcus Aurelius called this practice premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It's not worry, it's the proactive mindset of someone who is awake. When we anticipate every possibility, we are no longer surprised when life doesn't go as planned. We accept, remain calm, and act with a mind that is ready. Letting go, the strength of self-knowledge. Many people misunderstand letting go as a sign of weakness, an act of surrender, or the behavior of someone who gives up the fight. But in reality, letting go is a powerful form of liberation. When we stop trying to control what is beyond our reach, we begin to take real control over our inner selves. Imagine this. When your hand grips a rope tightly, the harder you pull, the more it hurts. Only when you loosen your grip does the pain go away. Letting go is the same. It's the action of someone who understands that some things do not need to be won, only accepted. Living like a river, flowing without losing yourself, life does not stand still. Everything around us, emotions, people, opportunities, even sorrow changes every day. If we cling to what has passed or try to hold on to what has not yet arrived, we only lose the present, the one place where we truly live. The world does not need us to control it. It only needs us to learn how to flow with it. Like a wise rower, instead of fighting the current, he learns to use the water's force to move forward. When you learn to go with the flow without being carried away, you discover a deep peace, a sense of serenity you may have spent a lifetime searching for. Embracing imperfection, the true nature of life. None of us can escape moments of disappointment when others don't act as we expect. Sometimes just a careless word or a thoughtless action is enough to make us frustrated or hurt. But have you ever asked yourself, why do we expect perfection from others when we ourselves are far from flawless? Stoicism teaches, yearning for perfection is an illusion, and that illusion is the root of suffering. The world is inherently imperfect, and that is precisely what makes it beautiful and alive. Every mistake, every clash, every shortcoming in the actions of others is part of the larger picture where people learn to understand, forgive, and grow together. When you understand, anger dissolves. Consider this. How many times have you felt disappointed because a colleague didn't finish a task on time, affecting your work? How many times have you felt betrayed by a friend who broke a promise, or hurt by a family member's thoughtless words? In those moments, if we are not mindful, our hearts are carried away by waves of anger and resentment. But if we pause to reflect, perhaps the other person is having a bad day, perhaps they are struggling with something we don't know. By shifting perspective from judgment to understanding, anger melts away, and we experience a profound sense of compassion, a mercy that lightens the heart and strengthens the soul. Accepting imperfection, accepting yourself. When you stop demanding the world to bend to your will, you also begin to forgive yourself more. You realize that you, too, have made mistakes, hurt others, broken promises, and failed when you thought you were certain. In that moment, you understand that imperfection is what makes us human. No one is born perfect, but everyone can learn to love, despite flaws both in themselves and in others. Letting go of expectations. A lighter world. When you learn to anticipate adversity, accept shortcomings, and release the illusion of control, you feel a new energy flowing through you. Not the energy of victory, but the energy of freedom. Freedom from desire, from resentment, from suffering. After all, the world does not need to be perfect for you to find peace. As long as your mind is calm, even amid chaos, you can discover absolute serenity. Accepting imperfection. The path to emotional mastery and inner peace. Everyday situations that hurt, frustrate, or anger us, such as someone breaking a promise, sabotaging a shared project, or acting insensitively, are part of life. But the question to reflect on is, are we expecting too much perfection from others? The truth is, humans are inherently imperfect. Everyone has limits, makes mistakes, and sometimes acts on emotion rather than reason. Expecting people to always be right, fair, or pleasing is the quickest path to disappointment. Stoic philosophy teaches, it is not events that disturb people, but their judgments about them. In other words, it's not others' actions that cause suffering, but how we interpret and react to them. When we let negative emotions dominate our minds, we are binding ourselves in chains of anger and frustration. A Stoic perspective on mistakes. Imagine this. You've spent a week meticulously preparing for an important presentation. Everything is perfectly arranged, but at the last minute, a colleague responsible for the documents makes a serious error, almost derailing your plan. The first reaction for most of us is anger. Why are they so careless? I tried my hardest. From a Stoic perspective, however, you realize that others' mistakes are beyond your control. Anger only complicates the situation and drains your energy. Instead of blaming, you shift your focus. What can I do right now to salvage this situation? At the moment you change your perspective, you are no longer a victim of circumstance. You become the master of your emotions, maintaining calm amidst upheaval. Peace comes from adaptation, not control. Stoicism teaches that peace does not come from the world operating according to our desires, but from learning to adapt and accept what is beyond our reach. When we understand that imperfection is the nature of life, we are no longer shaken by others' mistakes or things going wrong. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, wrote in Meditations, "Each morning, remind yourself that you will encounter careless, selfish, treacherous, or ungrateful people. But they act this way because they do not yet understand what is good and what is evil." This is not a complaint, it's a mental preparation. By starting the day with the awareness that the world can be imperfect and people may irritate you, you build a protective mental armor. True peace does not come from avoiding adversity, but from facing it with equanimity. When you realize that everything outside words, actions, weather, luck is beyond your control, you naturally release the need to control it and focus instead on the only thing you truly command: your own mind. Remember, serenity is not a gift from the world, it's a skill you cultivate daily. Each time you restrain anger, each time you learn to accept someone else's shortcomings, you take a step forward on the path of wisdom and inner freedom. Finding wholeness within. When we stop seeking perfection in the external world, we begin to see completeness within ourselves. And that is the essence of Stoicism, not changing the world, but changing how we see it. Embracing imperfection, the key to patience and inner peace. Imperfection is inevitable in life. We all face difficulties, mistakes, misunderstandings, and unmet expectations. Preparing ourselves to accept this is not pessimism, but a form of positive realism that helps navigate challenges with a steady mind and resilient spirit. Even in everyday moments, embracing imperfection can transform how we respond and experience the world. For example, when someone breaks a promise, instead of letting anger consume you, remind yourself that they are only human, with challenges you may not see. If you feel misunderstood or hurt, do not rush to conclude that the other person intends harm. Instead, remain calm, communicate clearly, and seek deeper understanding. Often, the words or actions that irritate us are simply limitations in expression, not direct malice. Accepting imperfection does not mean abandoning self-improvement or striving for a better world. Instead, it frees your mind from unrealistic expectations of others, reduces disappointment, and allows you to focus on what truly matters. In relationships, for example, we often expect partners to understand all our feelings, thoughts, and needs without explanation. But even those who love us most cannot read minds. Instead of resenting them, ask, "Can I communicate more clearly so they understand me?" This approach not only reduces frustration, but also nurtures empathy and mutual respect. When you learn to accept the world with all its flaws, you find joy in what once seemed negative. A careless colleague, a forgetful friend, or a rude stranger all become opportunities to practice patience, compassion, and forgiveness. Ask yourself, if I have made mistakes, I hope others will forgive me. So why can't I forgive them? When you answer this, you discover that forgiveness is not only a gift to others, but also a path to your own peace and inner freedom. Accepting imperfection does not weaken you. It makes you stronger, calmer, and more appreciative of every moment, even in an imperfect world. This understanding turns challenges, disappointments, and irritations into valuable lessons, cultivating a resilient, free, and peaceful mind. Calm amid chaos. The art of emotional mastery. An important perspective that Stoicism reminds us of is this: everyone, including yourself, is doing the best they can. No one is perfect, And true courage is not avoiding mistakes but accepting them with a free and aware mind. Seneca once wrote that the courageous person is a free person because the courage to face imperfection not only reflects compassion, but also opens the path to inner peace. Life doesn't need to be perfect for you to feel happy. When you stop expecting others or the world to conform to your desires, you free yourself from unnecessary burdens. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that the quality of one's thoughts determines a person's happiness. By letting these thoughts guide you, you can discover peace even amid the wildest storms. This does not mean compromising with imperfection, but rather practicing the art of taking responsibility for your own emotions. When you learn to accept flaws in the world, you open a door inward where you can observe and regulate your reactions instead of letting external circumstances dictate them. The world around us is constantly changing. People sometimes fail to meet our expectations, and events rarely unfold exactly as planned. These realities can frustrate many, but the greater truth is that the challenge is not in external flaws, but in how we manage our emotions when facing the unchangeable. A practical example: choosing your response. Imagine standing in a long line at a busy supermarket on the weekend, surrounded by impatient people. Suddenly, someone cuts in front of you without even apologizing. Instantly, irritation arises, you feel disrespected. There are two ways to respond: react out of habit, grumble, become angry, and carry the frustration with you for the rest of the day. Choose calm consciously. Pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, is this person's action truly worth sacrificing my peace of mind? They may be wrong, but your emotions are your own. No one has the right to decide how you feel. When you choose to stay calm, something remarkable happens. The initial agitation no longer controls you. You can observe, accept, and continue your day without being ruled by external circumstances. Stoicism reminds us that inner freedom begins with the ability to choose our own responses. When you take responsibility for your emotions, rather than letting others or circumstances dictate how you feel, you find genuine serenity and freedom, even amidst the most chaotic situations. Regaining control of your emotions. The key to inner peace. It's important to remember, others may not even be aware of their rude or disrespectful behavior, but the power that behavior has over you exists only if you allow it. By refusing to let others determine your emotions, your inner peace remains intact even when seemingly trivial events could otherwise trigger frustration. Instead, you can transform such moments into ordinary parts of your day, unaffected by negative emotions. In daily life, we often unconsciously give others control over our moods. A rude remark, a critical action, or indifference can make us feel hurt, angry, or discouraged. But you must ask yourself, why should someone else's actions dictate my state of mind? Marcus Aurelius, the Roman philosopher and emperor, emphasized that our only real power lies over our own minds, not external events. When we realize this, we uncover a hidden strength within, the ability to choose how we respond to every action and word. Applying this in practice, imagine a typical scenario. You're unfairly criticized at work. Anger and disappointment seem inevitable. But if you remind yourself that your worth is not determined by others' opinions, you find the ability to free your mind from outside influence and maintain inner balance. How do you practice this? A key step is to pause before reacting. When faced with a frustrating situation, ask yourself, am I overreacting? Is this really worth losing my peace for just this moment? This pause creates space between stimulus and response, giving you the opportunity to choose a calmer, more deliberate reaction instead of reflexively succumbing to negative emotions. By practicing this regularly, you learn to maintain control over your emotions, even in the most challenging circumstances, and cultivate a life that is lighter, freer, and independent of others' influence over your psychological state. Maintaining inner peace through emotional awareness. An extremely effective method for staying calm amid chaos is keeping a daily emotional journal. Rooted in Stoic philosophy, this practice helps you observe, understand, and regulate your own emotions. Each evening, take a few minutes to reflect on moments that cause frustration, disappointment, or irritation throughout the day. Record how you reacted, the thoughts that arose, and the feelings accompanying each situation. Over time, this habit will help you recognize recurring emotional patterns, allowing you to build the discipline to manage your own reactions. Stoicism teaches that you are fully responsible for your emotions. Others can only make you angry or upset if you allow it. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that if you feel suffering because of external events, the real cause is not the event itself, but how you evaluate and interpret it. The good news is that you can reclaim this control at any moment. His teachings remind us that emotions are our own assets, not anyone else's. When you learn to protect your inner peace, you realize that nothing can truly disturb or control your mind unless you let it. If you resonate with this perspective, don't hesitate to leave a heart or share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories about how you've managed your emotions, overcome stressful moments, and found peace in daily life. Every shared story creates an opportunity for people to learn from each other, exchange perspectives, and nurture empathy, building a rich space for discussion. Together, we can continue the journey of self-discovery and strengthen our inner resilience day by day. Part 4. Practicing non-reactivity in every situation. Life is always full of unexpected situations, and these moments often test our ability to control our emotions. A colleague criticizes you in the middle of a meeting, a stranger cuts in line while you are patiently waiting, or a sharp comment from someone can make you feel hurt, frustrated, or lose your composure. These seemingly small incidents have the power to disrupt your mood, triggering anger and disappointment. So how do you overcome negative emotions and remain calm in the face of provocative or rude behavior? The answer lies in the art of self-mastery through non-reactivity. The philosopher Epictetus emphasized, "It is not what happens to you that determines your emotions, but how you respond to it." This is a profound truth. Emotions do not arise from the actions of others, but from how you interpret them. Imagine being publicly criticized in front of colleagues. Your natural response might be to feel embarrassed, angry, or defensive to protect your reputation. However, pausing for a single breath before reacting creates space to ask yourself, do these words truly define my value? Your colleague's hasty behavior reflects their own mental state at that moment, not your abilities or character. When you choose not to react immediately, you protect your own calm, maintain professionalism, and prevent external influences from taking control of your mind. An alternative approach is to handle the situation with composure and courtesy. For example, smiling and saying, "Thank you for the feedback. I'll consider it and make adjustments." Instead of letting anger dominate, you retain control over your emotions while creating a more positive environment for yourself and those around you. Practicing non-reactivity does not mean ignoring the issue or lacking decisiveness. On the contrary, it is a way to strengthen inner resilience, remain composed, and respond intelligently and thoughtfully. When this habit is practiced consistently, you develop the ability to handle any uncomfortable situation with calmness, without letting temporary anger or frustration dictate your life or work. Part 5. The power of silence and emotional control. There are moments in life when calmness is the most powerful weapon you possess. When facing challenging colleagues or stressful situations, you don't need to react immediately. On the contrary, maintaining composure allows you to take control of the situation rather than letting your emotions be swayed by hostility or negativity from others. You can walk out of a meeting or any uncomfortable situation with confidence, serenity, and mastery over your own mind. The philosopher Seneca advised that the best way to handle anger is not through retaliation, but by pausing before responding. One of the most effective strategies is to give yourself a moment, take a deep breath, and think before speaking or acting. For example, if a colleague sends an important email but delays responding, instead of replying in a burst of irritation, allow yourself an hour or even a whole day to reflect. This pause gives you the clarity to assess the situation thoughtfully and respond deliberately, rather than being driven by momentary emotion. Sometimes, silence is the strongest response. By not replying to negativity with negativity, you protect your inner peace and prevent others from manipulating your emotions. Consider this vivid example. If a donkey kicks you and you kick back, both of you end up hurt. But if you remain silent, you are the one who maintains control of the situation. Silence is not a sign of weakness, it demonstrates inner strength, the ability to rise above impulsive emotions, and the choice to act rationally. A tense argument illustrates this well. When every word only fuels the fire of anger, the moment one party stops speaking, the fire gradually dies down. The person who chooses controlled silence is the true winner, for they preserve peace in their mind rather than succumbing to rage. Ask yourself, when was the last time you lost your temper over something truly trivial? Was that anger worth sacrificing your inner peace? By reflecting on this, you can choose to respond differently. These seemingly simple questions are powerful tools for self-examination, emotional control, and continuous self-improvement, as Marcus Aurelius often reminded us. By practicing pausing, thinking before responding, and intentional silence, you develop the ability to master your emotions, maintain composure, and turn every challenge into an opportunity for inner growth. This is not just an emotional management strategy, it is a pathway to true freedom and lasting peace in life. Part 6. The Power of Non-Reactivity and the Joy of Forgiveness. A key insight from Stoic philosophy is that suffering does not come from external events, but from the way we perceive them. When you feel hurt or disappointed by someone else's actions, it is not the event itself that causes harm, but the meaning you assign to it. The good news is that you always have the power to reclaim or adjust your response at any time. Recognizing this allows you to take control of your life, making every experience far easier to navigate. Practicing non-immediate reactions does not mean passively accepting everything or ignoring wrongdoing. Instead, it is a way to discern what is truly worthy of your energy and attention and what is not. By focusing on controlling your own reactions, you not only master your emotions but also protect your inner peace, serving as a shield against chaos and negativity from the outside world. Remind yourself daily, you cannot control others' words or actions, but you can always control how you respond with calmness, silence, and a steady heart. This is your most powerful weapon in a chaotic world, and it embodies the essence of Stoicism. When you learn to remain calm and avoid hasty reactions, events that once made you angry or flustered become lighter, like small ripples in the flow of life. Your heart is no longer dominated by resentment or frustration, and a new space opens, one of love, empathy, and forgiveness. In this process, you discover a profound joy, a joy that comes from understanding and compassion. Sometimes, the best way to protect your own peace is to forgive and let go of past hurts. When your mind is calm and your heart is open, you realize that forgiveness and non-reactivity are the foundation for true happiness. Marcus Aurelius wrote that each morning we should reflect on the wonderful privilege of being alive, of thinking, and of experiencing life. When you approach each day with this mindset, you see that joy does not come from perfection or controlling everything, but from inner freedom, maintaining peace amidst challenges, and the ability to open your heart to love and forgive. Lesson 1. Forgiveness and compassion, living with an open heart. These profound philosophical insights serve as gentle yet powerful reminders that each day we wake up, we are given a new opportunity to love, help others, and live with a more open heart. When we view forgiveness through the lens of Marcus Aurelius, it is not something distant or unattainable. In essence, forgiveness is the ability to recognize that spreading goodwill and supporting others brings joy not only to them, but also to ourselves. Imagine a friend working in a high-pressure environment where criticism is frequent and sometimes unfair. Instead of letting anger take over, he chooses to listen patiently and asks himself, is there something I don't know about them? One day, he discovers that a colleague he had been irritated with is facing serious financial difficulties and personal pressures. This awareness completely changes how he sees that colleague. Rather than reacting negatively, he remains calm, listens, and even finds ways to offer help when possible. The outcome of this choice far exceeds expectations. Their relationship improves, the work environment becomes lighter, and negative energy gradually gives way to understanding and collaboration. This vivid example shows that compassion and forgiveness not only improve interpersonal relationships, but also help us find inner peace. This principle applies equally within families. Minor disagreements can escalate into major conflicts if we fail to manage our emotions. Imagine a relative constantly criticizing you, no matter what you do. Such words can be deeply hurtful, but through the Stoic perspective, you realize that these criticisms often reflect their own insecurities or inner pain, not your true worth. With this understanding, you no longer let others' words dictate your emotions. Instead, you remain calm, cultivate compassion, and choose wiser responses. Forgiveness does not mean accepting all mistakes or overlooking wrongdoing. It is a proactive approach to free yourself from stress, resentment, and negativity. Each time you choose to forgive or help someone in a difficult situation, you create space for kindness to grow, and you benefit from greater peace, happiness, and healthier relationships. By viewing the world through this lens, every moment of disagreement, conflict, or criticism becomes an opportunity to strengthen your heart and spirit. This is the art of living with an open heart and practicing forgiveness daily, a core principle of Stoic philosophy that nurtures inner growth, improves relationships, and builds a more meaningful life. Lesson 2. Forgiveness and inner freedom. Maintaining peace amid anger. When you realize that anger no longer controls you, it loses its power. Forgiveness does not mean condoning the wrongful actions of others. It means refusing to let them dominate your emotions and mental energy. Often, anger arises from unrealistic expectations. We want others to behave the way we think is right. In reality, the world is imperfect, and everyone carries unseen burdens and struggles. Recognizing this, those invisible expectations gradually fade, and anger naturally loses its hold. The beauty of forgiveness is that it not only frees you from anger, but also brings relief, peace, and deep joy. Recall moments when you helped someone without expecting anything in return. The sense of calm and fulfillment is a testament to the power of forgiveness. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that no one is truly free if they cannot master themselves. Practicing forgiveness is not just giving, it is maintaining control over your own emotions, a freedom that no material wealth can buy. Modern research confirms this as well. People who regularly practice compassion and kindness report higher levels of happiness, aligning with ancient Stoic wisdom. Forgiveness is not only a moral virtue, but also a gateway to a more meaningful and complete life. A practical way to practice forgiveness is to ask yourself regularly, can I see this action from their perspective? What might be motivating them to behave this way? These questions help reduce irritation and foster understanding. Recall the last time you helped someone without expecting anything in return. The peace, lightness, and deep happiness you felt is a vivid example of the power of forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes it's as simple as exercising patience with someone's carelessness rather than trying to control the uncontrollable. By focusing on improving yourself, practicing kindness, and appreciating opportunities to act benevolently, you free yourself from anger and cultivate peace. As Seneca said, wherever there are people, there is always an opportunity for goodness. Choosing forgiveness is not just for others, it is also for yourself. By extending understanding, you create a better world, both externally and within your own soul. Forgiveness becomes an act of liberation, a key to inner freedom and true happiness. Thus, the 7 lessons we have explored: letting go of judgment, accepting imperfection, taking responsibility for emotions, practicing non-reactivity, cultivating compassion, forgiving, and nurturing inner peace are not abstract philosophy. They are a roadmap to living with self-mastery, calmness, and empathy. They enable us to find joy and compassion, which is the greatest gift we can give both to others and to ourselves. If you found this video helpful, please like it, share it with your loved ones, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss future inspirational content. Every small share can bring light and joy to someone's day. Thank you for joining me, and see you in the next video.